This is for the ones who are genuinely seeking, not just gathering facts, but listening with their soul. There is a moment in your evolution where another book, another podcast, another clever quote simply won't do. The hunger shifts. You stop looking for answers out there because you've begun to hear a whisper inside. It's a quiet, foundational truth, and it's waiting for you to get still enough to listen, to stop performing, stop explaining, and finally, just be. But there is a trap here, a paradox that very few will warn you about. The moment you grasp something truly life-altering, the instant you touch a truth that reorders your world, an intense compulsion will rise up in you to speak it, to share it, to broadcast it, to prove its existence through the ears of others. This is human. It's the mind seeking to lock down its own discovery. But there is a deeper wisdom that says, hold your tongue, not because the truth is a secret to be hoarded, but because it is a flame. And if you run out into the wind with it too soon, you will extinguish the very light you were given. Some truths are like newborns. You don't parade them in a crowd the moment they arrive. You swaddle them, you protect them. You give them the quiet space to grow strong. What they don't teach you is that speaking too soon is the ego in disguise. We talk to be seen as wise. We explain to be acknowledged for our progress. But genuine transformation doesn't grow in the thin soil of external approval. It grows in the deep, silent ground of lived experience. The awakening process has a unique edge to it, because you will start to see the matrix while others are still enjoying the movie. You will move differently. The things that once captivated you will become hollow. The noise you once craved will become grating. You will outgrow rooms you once desperately wanted to fit into. And that transition will bring a profound loneliness. A loneliness that screams for validation, that tempts you to justify your new path, to convince others that your vision has cleared. But stillness is your greatest ally. Because in the quiet, you're not trying to win an argument with anyone. You are simply integrating the truth you've found. The power of your change is not measured by how many people you tell. It's measured by how deeply it alters your own behavior. Hold your tongue not because others are unworthy, but because what is sacred requires a sanctuary. A day will come when you see with piercing clarity how cheaply words are spent, how we leak our own power trying to narrate a change we should be embodying. You will understand that not everyone has earned a backstage pass to your soul. Not because they are malicious, but because they are on a different part of the journey. If you try to hand them a blueprint for a house they have no desire to build, they will only criticize the design. They haven't felt the rain you're trying to escape. And it is not your duty to describe the storm to them. You are not a salesperson for truth. You are its vessel. And becoming a strong vessel is a silent process. It happens in those unglamorous moments when you choose discipline over distraction, when you retreat from drama instead of fueling it, when you sit with your discomfort instead of numbing it. These are the bricks that build an unshakable you. Not the moments you speak, but the moments you choose. So the next time you feel that internal shift, that aha moment that feels so electric it wants to leap from your lips, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this for them to hear, or is this for me to live? 9 times out of 10, it's the latter. You owe your breakthrough the honor of integration. Let the truth change you before you try to use it to change anyone else. Because when it's truly embedded in you, when it is no longer an idea, but your reality, you won't have to say a word. Your presence will be the sermon. Your energy, your choices, your very stillness, they will communicate with more power than 1,000 lectures. That is how you seal your growth. That is how you become a force. You stop bleeding out your power in explanations. You stop telling the story of your rise, and instead, you simply stand on the mountain you have silently climbed. The secret, and you now know it, is to hold your tongue. There's a subtle physics to this universe that few discuss because it cannot be proven in a lab. It can only be experienced. The law is this: When you articulate a profound insight prematurely, you forfeit it. Not because wisdom is a fickle thing, but because your vessel is not yet tempered to hold it. When you first brush against a deep truth, it's electrifying. It feels like a lightning strike to the soul. Suddenly, the patterns make sense. The pain, the struggle, the detours, it all clicks into a coherent mosaic. And in that flash of clarity, the need to share feels like a moral imperative. But this is the lesson the world seldom teaches. Not all truths are meant for immediate broadcast. Truth has weight. If your hands are not yet strong enough to carry it, it will crush you. The initial flash of insight is not the destination. It is the starting gun for a much deeper practice. To speak of your realization before you have lived it is like trying to describe the flavor of a fruit you've only smelled. The description will be hollow. It will lack substance. You must understand, your words are not just sounds, they are conductors of energy. And with that comes a responsibility. When you speak on things you haven't fully embodied, it's like an architect describing a building from a single, rough sketch. The foundation is uncertain, the dimensions are off, and anyone who tries to build from that plan will end up with a leaning tower. The discipline of quiet that follows a breakthrough is not a gag order, it is an incubation period. It protects you, giving your mind, body, and habits time to catch up to what your spirit has just glimpsed. It protects the insight itself, allowing it to sink from a mere thought into your character, your reflexes, your very bones. Because until your actions consistently reflect your new understanding, it's not yet truth. It's a hypothesis. And hypotheses are fragile. They are vulnerable not only to our own doubt, but to the world's casual dismissal. When you offer a potent realization to someone who is not seeking, you are not being generous. It may feel like it, but you are actually putting your own evolution on the line. You are entrusting something precious to someone who cannot feel its value. They will question it, belittle it, or ignore it. And if your own conviction is not yet rock solid, their skepticism can infect you. It can make you second guess what was, moments before, a point of diamond-like clarity. In this way, the ego masquerades as a teacher. I have to share this, it insists. But the truly wise do not sprint to the podium. They let their lives become the lecture. True mastery is quiet. The oak tree doesn't announce its strength. It simply endures the seasons silently, powerfully, growing deeper roots. Those who need its shelter will eventually be drawn to it. In the same way, your growth will radiate through your composure, your responses under fire, your compassion, your boundaries. And this embodiment will testify more profoundly than any explanation you could ever craft. It is crucial to recognize that some people rely on your instability to feel secure in their own stagnation. If you declare your newfound clarity to those who are comfortable in their confusion, they will instinctively try to pull you back. Not from malice, but from fear. Your light reminds them of their own darkness. Your freedom highlights their own cages. So they will challenge your truth, not because it is false, but because they cannot afford for it to be true. And if your roots are not yet deep, their push will be enough to make you sway. This is why silence must be your first response, not forever, but for long enough that your truth solidifies into an unshakable knowing. Speak only when your words no longer beg for agreement. Share only when your peace cannot be stolen by another's disbelief. At that point, you are no longer trying to persuade. You are simply bearing witness to what is. There's one more layer. When you withhold your insights from speech, you force them to work on you internally. They start to sculpt your behavior in subtle ways: the way you listen, the way you work, the way you walk away from battles that are not yours to fight. These are the quiet markers of real change. They don't have a hashtag, they don't get likes, but they are absolute. The people around you will sense it. Even if they can't articulate it, they will feel a new gravity in you, a new presence. That is the aura of a person who has found something real and held it long enough to merge with it. So, the next time you realize something that shakes your world, resist the urge to post about it. Let your stillness be its guardian. Let your silence be its nutrient. Let your actions be its voice. And in time, when the hypothesis has become a law of your own being, you will find you don't need to speak at all. People will seek you out, not for your opinions, but for your energy. And when you do finally speak, they will hang on every word, not because you are loud, but because your silence has earned their attention. That is authentic power. That is knowing the truth and knowing when it's not for sale. There is a stark distinction between force and power. Force is the effort it takes to do something. Power is the wisdom to know when to do nothing. This is the great misunderstanding of our age. People believe power is loud, that it's demonstrated through argument, through visibility, through dominance. But true power, the kind that reshapes a person from the inside out, is quiet, it is contained, it has nothing to prove, it doesn't need to make an entrance, it doesn't need applause. It is self-validating. When you meet someone who has genuinely wrestled with their own demons, faced their shadows, and integrated their lessons, you will notice a defining quality about them. They are in no rush to prove a point. They listen with an unnerving stillness. Their presence has weight, not because they are heavy, but because they are grounded. That quality is restraint. And restraint is the signature of someone who has acquired power and then chosen to master it. We are swimming in a culture that screams for attention. Social media, our conversations, our very identities have become a constant performance. Everyone is broadcasting. Almost no one is receiving. Everyone is sharing their truth. But so little of it comes from a place of deep, silent integration. It's mostly just noise. And within that hurricane of noise, the people who carry real authority are the quiet ones. The ones who know that some insights are too sacred for the marketplace of opinions. That wisdom is not a commodity to be flaunted. It's a fire within that must be shielded from the wind. You see, restraint is not weakness. It's not passivity. It is the disciplined strength to override the ego's frantic need to react, to correct, to speak, to win. It means you can sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood. It means you can allow someone to be wrong without needing to jump in and fix them just to feel superior. That isn't cowardice. That's profound self-respect. Because the second you feel the compulsion to prove your worth, you have handed the judge's gavel to someone else. And that is not power. It is neediness disguised as confidence. There is a sacred practice in holding your truth close, in not needing the world's stamp of approval on it. Some things are meant to be lived into, not talked about. When you uncover something that fundamentally changes you, your first instinct is often to perform it for an audience. But wisdom is not a play, it's a practice. It must first be metabolized, woven into the fabric of your character, and made real through your choices when no one is watching. Think of a master craftsman. The most skilled artisans are not the ones who talk endlessly about their technique. They are the ones you find in their workshop, silently, patiently, honing their craft. Why? Because they don't need to advertise what they know. They have become it. Their restraint is not a strategy, it's a natural state. It's the byproduct of thousands of hours of focus, of humbling mistakes, and of quiet victories. They have learned that power is not what you can show off, but what you can hold in reserve. The exact same law applies to inner development. The more you know, the less you need to say. The deeper your peace, the less you are disturbed by the chaos of others. You stop needing to win debates. You stop being hungry for praise. You let people underestimate you, misread you, or even dismiss you because you have discovered that your reality does not require their vote. That is authentic power. Silent-centered, unshakable. But restraint does more than just protect your energy, it refines it. Every time you choose silence when it would be easier to lash out, every time you choose presence when you are tempted to perform, you are training your spirit. You become more focused, more deliberate, more potent. Instead of dissipating your energy outward in a spray of words, you concentrate it inward to deepen your own foundation. And with every act of restraint, your discernment grows. You start to see with perfect clarity who is worthy of your energy and who is not, who is ready to hear and who is not, what is truth and what is performance. This clarity becomes your shield. It guides your actions from a place of wisdom, not from a place of emotion. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are responding from your center. That is the heart of transformation. When your life ceases to be a frantic reaction to external events and becomes a deliberate expression of your deepest truth. In the schools of ancient wisdom, restraint was always the hallmark of maturity. It signified that you had arrived at a place where your inner peace was no longer for sale, where you refused to let other people or circumstances dictate your inner state. And the most potent thing about that state is this: people feel it. They might not have the words for it. It might even make them uncomfortable, but they feel it. And over time, they start to treat you differently, not because you demanded their respect, but because your quiet power commanded it. And when they finally, genuinely ask, you'll know they are ready. You won't have to convince them of anything. You'll simply speak, and your words will land with the force of a tidal wave. Because you waited, because you honored the truth enough to protect it, and because you didn't squander your power on a premature display. That is what it means to be powerful. That is what it means to know the secret and keep it safe. There comes a point in any true journey of growth where the most potent action you can take is to say nothing. Not because you are empty of words, but because you have finally understood that silence itself is a language. And when wielded with wisdom, it communicates more powerfully than any argument, any explanation, or any defense. Silence is not a vacuum of power. It is the very container of mastery. In the first stages of our awakening, we feel an urgent need to explain. We want to map out for others everything we've learned, everything we've seen, everything we've become. We are a cup overflowing, and we spill our contents onto anyone nearby. But as we mature, we start to notice that not everyone is thirsty. Not everyone is ready to drink what we've spent so long collecting. And more critically, not every environment is worthy of our sacred water. That is when silence graduates from a passive state to an active choice. A choice made not from fear, but from profound discernment. In silence, you unmask your own intentions. Are you speaking because you need to be validated? Because you crave the feeling of being right? Because your ego is starving for an audience? Or are you willing to be still to protect your own energy? To allow others the dignity of their own path, even if you see it as wrong? Silence forces you to confront yourself more honestly than speech ever could, because when you strip away the performance of explanation and justification, all that remains is your core truth. And sitting with that raw truth, without the anesthesia of words, is where authentic growth ignites. There is an ancient power in stillness. The world scrambles, shouts, posts, and performs. But you don't. You observe, you absorb, you understand. You learn to hear the music behind the words. You listen not just to what is said, but to what is left unsaid. You start to see the motivations, the fears, and the agendas that others miss. In silence, your perception becomes razor sharp. You grow more attuned to energy, to the subtle shifts in a room, to the unspoken truths hanging in the air. This is not a superpower. It is awareness by design, and it is forged in silence. Consider the true masters of any craft. Their power is not just in what they do, but in what they don't do. They don't waste motion. A master archer is defined by their stillness before the release. They are calm, centered, silent, and when they finally act, it is not from impulse. It is from a place of total readiness. This exact principle governs your life. When you have mastered the art of silence, you no longer speak to fill a void. You speak only when you have something of value to contribute. And when you choose to remain silent, it is an act of immense power, not an admission of weakness. In your relationships, silence can be more compassionate than words. Sometimes, people don't need your solutions. They need your undivided presence. Sometimes, they don't need your voice to fix them. They need your silence so they can hear their own. When you stop rushing in to solve their problems with your talk, you give them the space to find their own strength, just as you found yours. That form of silence is an act of profound respect. And when it comes to your own journey, especially through pain, silence can be a sanctuary. You do not need to broadcast your wounds to make them real. You do not need to narrate your healing for it to be valid. Often, the most profound healing happens in the quiet, when you sit with yourself without an audience, without opinions, and simply allow yourself to be, to feel, to integrate. That is where the alchemy of transformation takes place. In silence, the shattered parts of you begin to mend. Not because you willed them to, but because you finally gave them the quiet space to do so. Silence also shields your vision. The more you talk about your grand plans, your big dreams, your future goals, the more you expose them to the corrosive elements of doubt, jealousy, and interference from the outside world. There is a formidable power in moving quietly, in building your empire without an announcement, in becoming the person you want to be without a press release. Let your results be the noise. Let your inner peace be your business card. When you hold your intentions in a sacred, silent space, they gather strength. They become rooted in purpose, not in applause. And finally, silence is the ultimate teacher of patience. The world will constantly try to bait you. People will provoke you. Life will present challenges that scream for an immediate, emotional reaction. But in silence, you learn to pause, to observe, to respond from a place of centered strength, not raw emotion. This does not mean you become a doormat. It means you speak with intention, with precision, with maximum impact. Your words, when they are finally released, land with weight because they have been forged in the pressure of silence. This is the secret so many miss. They think power must be loud, that wisdom needs a microphone, that truth needs to be shouted to be heard. But those who have truly arrived know differently. They know that silence is not empty. It is full. It is full of your strength, your wisdom, your insight. It is your boundary, your meditation, your power, and your shield. So once you know something deeply, not just in your head, but in your soul and in your bones, resist the desperate urge to prove it. Instead, live it. Let it shape your choices. Let it redefine your character. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people with the courage to be silent until their words can change the room. And when that time comes, they will speak not to be seen, but to help others see. Until then, let silence be your guide. The road to true wisdom is not paved with declarations. It is carved out of silence, fortified by restraint, and walked in a state of inner solitude. Once you have truly grasped this, once you have felt the profound, grounding power that silence holds, you no longer feel compelled to convince the world of who you are. The chase for external validation, which once felt like a matter of survival, fades away. The battles that your ego once craved, you now see as a waste of sacred energy. You simply are. And this state of being, it is cultivated in the quiet moments when no one is watching. In the stillness of the early morning, when you are alone with your own spirit. In the deep of the night, when you review your choices, not with judgment, but with a desire to refine your own compass. It is built in your stillness, in your patience, in the conscious decision to respond rather than to react. It is built in the words you choose not to speak, the arguments you choose to walk away from, the pain you process internally without needing an audience. There is an undeniable gravity to the person who no longer needs to be loud. This kind of power is absolute. It is rooted. It is not swayed by praise or by criticism. It is not dependent on being seen, liked, or understood. It simply is, like a great mountain that is unmoved by the weather, like the deep ocean that is unbothered by the turmoil on its surface. The one who holds a precious truth and chooses silence is not hiding it from others. They are honoring its sanctity, because that is what real wisdom is. It is earned. It is earned through direct experience, through failure, through difficult choices, and through quiet, unglamorous persistence. And the deeper the truth you've earned, the less you feel the need to speak of it casually, not because you are arrogant, but because you respect it. You understand its power. You know that wisdom is not for show. It is for transformation, and before it can ever hope to transform anyone else, it must first be allowed to fully transform you. So you carry it inside you. You let it temper your reactions. You let it clarify your vision. You let it humble your ego. And you let it guide you like a North Star that remains fixed even when the world around you is spinning. You stop searching outside yourself for guidance because you have learned how to listen to the profound silence within. And in that silence, you find clarity. You also find peace, the kind of peace that doesn't depend on everything going your way, but from your own refusal to be derailed when things go wrong. The kind of peace that remains steady even when you are misunderstood, doubted, or challenged. You no longer fight to prove your worth because your energy has become sacred to you. Your time has become sacred. Your inner state is not on the negotiating table. You do not give it away for anything. That is the point when your life begins to change, not because the world has changed, but because you have. And your transformation, while quiet, becomes impossible to ignore. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more intention. You make choices from a place of centered knowing, not from a place of fear or lack. You invest your energy with precision, and you guard your silence as if it were a treasure. You don't allow noise to pollute your spirit. You don't allow confusion to dictate your actions. You have become still. And in your stillness, you have become powerful. People will feel this long before they can ever explain it. They may not know why they are drawn to your calm, why your few words seem to carry so much weight, why your presence feels like a safe harbor. It's because you have done the work that most people avoid. You have gone inward. You have sat in the silent forge of self-awareness long enough to understand that not everything needs to be verbalized. Not every insight needs a stage. Some truths are meant only for you to be the silent engine of your own evolution. So, when the world tries to pull you back into its drama, when it tempts you with the promise of applause, with the thrill of an argument, with the illusion of recognition, remember this: you are not here to make noise. You are here to be solid, to be centered, to be real. And often, the most real thing you can do is to say nothing at all. Let your life be the evidence of what you know. Let your actions be the sermon. Let your silence teach with an eloquence your voice could never achieve. That is how you command respect without demanding it. That is how you influence without manipulation. That is how you protect your own power and continue to grow uninterrupted. Because once you've found the secret, once you've tasted the kind of clarity that cannot be bought or borrowed, you'll understand exactly why it must be guarded, not from the world, but for yourself, so that it can continue its quiet, miraculous work inside of you. In a world obsessed with being heard, choose the discipline of listening. In a world addicted to drama, choose the courage of stillness. And in a world desperate for attention, choose the quiet power of becoming someone who can be felt, even when they say nothing.